Okay. Good evening. It is now 6:30 and I call this regular meeting of the Victoria City Council to order. It is our tradition to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We invite you to stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is announcements. And I'll read those out right now. There's a workshop scheduled for Monday, June 14th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss possible code revisions as part of the city's comprehensive code review project. Our 6-month-long budget process kicks off at a workshop on Monday, June 28th at 5 p.m. where council will discuss the preliminary 2022 budget. The council will also hold a workshop on Monday, July 12th at 5:30 p.m. to review, discuss recommendations for the city's long-term facilities space planning needs. All city council meetings are open to the public and held in the council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we encourage anyone wanting to attend our council meetings or workshops in person to contact our city clerk in advance so we can ensure physical distancing can be maintained. And other announcements, Victoria residents can now take their yard waste to the old Public Works building on Steiger Lake Lane on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays during daylight hours through the month of May, which will be the end of this week. The City Council will be recognizing city volunteers and outgoing advisory board members and will also be kicking off our new community builder event at Bayfront Park in downtown Victoria on Friday, June 18th at 3:30 p.m. So you're all welcome. There will also be a ribbon cutting at Wasserman Lake Preserve at 4 p.m. on Monday, June 28th. We welcome everyone to these events. Watch our social media channels or check out our website for more information. And then there is one proclamation this evening, and I will read that here from the dais. So we have a proclamation to commend the teachers from School District 110, School District 112, School District 276, and Holy Family Catholic High School. Whereas teachers do their best to ensure the best learning curriculum for our students, whether in school or in a distance learning environment, working long hours and coming up with inspiring results to complicated obstacles so our students can succeed both in and out of the classroom. And whereas through their determination to support students learning to be intellectual, social, and emotional, they have risen up to the challenge to be successful in doing so in the midst of a pandemic. And whereas teachers are the key to unlocking the endless potential our children come to school with, supporting them to become well-rounded students, socially, emotionally, and academically prepared to achieve excellence. And whereas everyone benefits from educators who are empowered to lead, allowing them to best prepare young people to become contributing members of our community, thereby strengthening our democracy. And whereas during distance learning, more and more people are discovering the length teachers go in order to meet the needs and demands of their students. And whereas teachers play many roles in our students' lives as mentors, motivators, and listeners, creating lifelong ties with their students, and that assistance and guidance stays with students long after their school days. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Victoria City Council commends the teachers of Oconee Public School District, Eastern Carver County School District, Minnetonka Public School District, and Holy Family Catholic High School for their dedication and devotion of their work. That was nice. Okay. We will move now on to our next item, and that is open forum. Open forum is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not an application form that will be coming to council at a future date. This evening, we have 2 individuals registered to speak during open forum. I'd like to now welcome Barb Hone. Ms. Hone, please step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, hi, I'm Barb Hone, and I reside at 2892 Fairway Drive in Chaska. So, thank you for allowing me to come. Purple Rains has been slushing around in my head for years, and before anything really got formalized, Prince ended up passing away, and we're using this 5th anniversary of his passing to be able to celebrate him. So, just a little bit of history in case you're interested. It's been almost 2 years ago this coming July, that another team member and I met with the mayor of Chanhassen, Mayor Ryan, and she was excited about the project right away and introduced us, gave us the contact information for Vice President Acock, who is Vice President of Wealth Management and Estate Administration. So she gave us right to the top to be able to present this idea. And the proposal, I'll just go over in general. It was and is to paint the county purple in his honor. And the Arts Consortium is using taking this year to honor him posthumously as our honorary member of the year. And honorary member, our definition is kind of weak when you think about Prince, but our definition is a current or former resident of Carver County whose art has achieved national or international acclaim. And we actually have quite a few. I think there's 13 on our website. And a number of them have also, in less, recognizable ways, but have achieved international acclaim as well. So, that we're honoring him as honorary member and asking the entire county to join in the celebration by painting the county purple. So that's what it's all about. And we have sent out invitations to each of the mayors and city administrators. And also, so it's been cities, schools, chambers of commerce, and the libraries have all gotten specific invitations. And the schools we created kind of a knowledge poster for the schools. I'll leave this with you. It just has some facts because a lot of kids in schools don't even know who Prince is, actually, which it just seems astonishing to us, but it's another generation or 2 coming up. So, and because we're aware of, schools' efforts this year with COVID and everything, we didn't want to put any burden on the teachers, and we asked the administration if they'd consider pronouncing a Purple Day and playing Prince songs, and we even gave them a list of kid-friendly lyrics. So we'll see, but I have to tell you up front that District 112 is not going to be participating in this, and the reason is, and it makes sense, limited people in and out of the buildings and posters and modern age posters, I understand, go out via email, and the district requires that you pay $30 per building to have access to shoot this stuff out. So anyway, that's not happening. And I think the smaller districts are all participating in some way. So, so that is like our little knowledge thing. And we have met with all the city councils. We have one more. I go to Watertown tomorrow evening. But people are generally excited about it. And we met with the county first, and they jumped in immediately and committed to having purple floodlights on the government center throughout the month of June. And they're going to have purple flower beds, which if you've been to garden centers yet, purple's in. There are purple flowers everywhere. And then other towns too have, you know, kind of iconic things like Carver, the steamboat, and thinking of kind of iconic things in each town that could maybe have the purple floodlights on them. Or in New Germany, the opposite side of the county, they already had purple flowers in front of their bell, in front of their city hall. So anything that you can think of or would like to do or encourage, I'm going to go around to the businesses in town here specifically tomorrow, but just spread the word. We want to think happy and purple. And then you're also going to receive one more invitation to be invited to the event, because besides having June being purple, we're inviting people to come to the community center that's now home of the Arts Consortium. The city of Chaska invited us to come in. I think it was September of this year. So it's June 17th. You'll get the invitation anyway. And Madam Mayor, please share the invitation. You're all welcome to come. It's 6:30 to 8:30 that evening, and we will be having an artist reception, because the June reception or exhibit is Express Yourself in Purple. And then we'll also have the honoring ceremony and celebrate some local artists. And we're having a fabulous 9-piece band that evening, so just come and enjoy with us. And so unless you have any questions, I won't take up any more of your time.
Any questions?
Thank you,
No.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Okay. And pictures, put them up on purple hashtag Purple Rains 2021. That gets it there specifically.
Okay, thank you.
go. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Bye.
Bye. Next, our speaker is Stacy Besh, new property owner in Victoria. Ms. Besh, please step up to the podium and state your name and address in Victoria for the record.
Yes, I'm Stacy Besh. My address is 7000 Fox Hollow Drive, which is still new for me to say since we're newly here. So thank you for hearing me out tonight. We recently purchased the property about a year ago at 7000 Fox Hollow Drive, which is part of Fox Hollow Ridge over off of Kings Road. And it recently came to our attention that about 11 years ago, there was a master developers agreement that was struck between Lennar and the city of Victoria that applies to these 3 lots within the Fox Hollow Ridge subdivision. Unknowing to us when we purchased the lot that this master development agreement existed. So there's a number of things that are part of this agreement. I will say that page 2 of the agreement states that the developer means U.S. Home Corporation, Lennar, a Delaware corporation. So that's how the document starts. It continues on with a number of specifications about the requirements, both on Lennar's part as well as the city's part. As part of this, in section 4.11.2, the contract states the developer shall be required to install an improved fire sprinkler system in each home in the subdivision, which system must be shown on plans submitted to the city for issuance of building permits. So this is a commitment that Lennar made as part of this contract that just came to our attention when this was passed on to us. And so there's a number of other items in here. Some have financial implications for us directly as part of administering this, others don't. But what I'm asking is for the council to consider enforcing this development agreement with Lennar as the defined developer within this contract. On the last page of the contract, page 23, it says, "The developer shall submit to the city written evidence of any such transfer or assignment, including the transferee or assignee's express assumption of the developer's obligations under this agreement." It continues, "If the developer fails to provide such evidence of transfer and assumption, the developer shall remain bound by all its obligations under this agreement." And so what we're asking is, since we did not assume the responsibility of this contract and had no knowledge of it when we closed on the lot, we would like to ask the council to step in and enforce the agreement with Lennar.
Okay. Any questions?
For Bob,
Yeah. Bob, did you have any
Where-
questions or?
where does this fall for us now? If we comment on it, is it going to come before us later?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, I was made aware of the contract before the meeting. I've had a chance to look at it. I think it's been communicated to you that I have a number of questions about sort of how we got where we are now. As I understand it, a building permit was in fact issued. You read the language from the development agreement about the city wouldn't issue a building permit absent the sprinkler being shown. I take it there was a sprinkler shown on the plans, and now you're seeking reimbursement from developer?
That's
So
correct.
I have a number of questions sort of about how we got here and what the city can do, if anything, going forward. I think it probably makes sense to sort of work through those through staff with both developer and with your good residents here, and maybe we have to look to the county too for some county records. But we have to get some more information. I appreciate the language in the agreement that talks about Lennar paying for this. I'm just not sure where we are in the stream now of how this is going to work out now that we're a little further downstream. So we're on it, and I expect that staff will report back.
Okay, so we can expect staff to investigate this further and get back?
And I'm just curious, this is about the same time period that the state passed the fire sprinkler law, where dwellings over 5,000 square feet had to have these sprinkler systems installed.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, it's a good question, Council Member. You're well informed about that stuff. Yeah, I had the same question about sort of where the timing of this agreement fell in relation to that rule, which existed for a period and then now has since gone away. And so that's another good question and something that we're going to take a look at.
Okay, because I thought it had to do with the fact that there was no fire hydrants.
Well, it could be that, but this is at about the time when homes in Minnesota that were larger than 5,000 square feet were required to have sprinkler systems. Didn't matter the size, and the time frame is about that. So, that is something that I would look into, and I'm hesitant to say any more just in case it does come back. So,
Okay,
Yeah, fair point.
so we're on it.
Okay, and if I could just add, we did go back to Lennar immediately, once this came to our attention about a month ago, to try and address this directly, and we're told that this transferred with us and that it was sold as is. However, there's language in the purchase agreement saying that there's a lien on the property till they approve the final build. So being sold as is of course not the case as written in the purchase agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public who wishes to address the council? Looks like it's us. Seeing no one, we will now move on to our agenda. Our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, is there a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine, administrative, do not require deliberation, or are housekeeping items required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent items for separate discussion?
None from staff. Madam Acting Mayor?
Okay. Council, are there any items you would like to pull for separate discussion?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull an item for a separate discussion and vote? Nobody? Okay, so council, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda is adopted. Now on to item page. 6.1, Independent Auditor's Report for the year end 2020. Trish, is this,
Yes. Good evening, council. Tonight, we have our independent auditors, Jacqueline Hugel, she's CPA from the firm MMKR. They've completed their audit work for the year ending 2020, and she is going to present the comprehensive annual financial report. Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As Trish said, my name is Jackie Hegel. I am the partner in charge of the audit from MMKR CPAs. I am here to present the audit results for the year ended December of 2020. I believe in your agenda packet, you did receive the reports, which include the comprehensive annual financial report, which is a city document with all the financial results. There is also a smaller document called a special purpose report that includes audit opinions, as well as the management report, which is our MMKR document that summarizes the results of the audit. Just to give a little background, we started the preliminary procedures of the audit in January. So we're on site here at City Hall for a couple days doing some of the preliminary audit testing. And then I think it was the third week in March, we were back to do the final field work, which is the bulk of the audit testing where we complete most of the audit. And then from there, we're working remotely with the city staff to assist with the comprehensive annual financial report and to get the rest of the audit wrapped up to be here tonight to present the results. Moving on here, just to give a little background on our role as auditors. As an auditor, we're here to issue an opinion on the city's basic financial statements. So that's that comprehensive annual financial report. We issue an opinion that they are fairly stated as of December 31st, 2020. As part of the audit, we also test internal controls and compliance over that financial statement audit, and also with the Minnesota legal compliance audit. So every year, the Office of the State Auditor issues a legal compliance manual with specific state statutes that they require auditors to test for. And that can change from year to year, but we test those specific statutes that the state auditor puts out. Many of you are also probably aware that during the 2020 year, the city did receive some federal funds, the coronavirus relief funds. The threshold from an audit standpoint is $750,000. So when you're expending $750,000 or more, then it requires a separate audit of those dollars. So for the 2020 year, the city was under that threshold. So those dollars are all reflected in your financial report, but there's not a separate single audit completed on those dollars. And for the audit results, it was very good results across the board. We issued a modified or a clean opinion on those basic financial statements. So that's the opinion you're looking for. It's the top opinion you can get. For the internal controls over financial reporting, we had no findings or comments to report. We also had no comments to report over the compliance with the financial statement audit, and also clean opinions, no findings in that Minnesota legal compliance area. So overall, a clean audit and no findings to report for the 2020 year. The next several slides I'll go through summarize the financial results for the 2020 year. This slide summarizes the governmental funds of this city and that change in that fund balance from 2019 to 20. The top part of this table shows it by classification, so that's those non-spendable restricted dollars all the way down to the unassigned. So it starts with the most restricted down to the least restricted. And then the bottom part of that table shows it by the major funds of the city with all the non-major funds combined. So for the 2020 year, you saw an increase in all the governmental funds, fund balance of about $314,000. You're seeing some swings there. The restricted balance went down. A lot of that is due to some of the bond proceeds from previous years being spent down, as well as if you're looking at that bottom part, debt service decreased. The city did refund some outstanding bonds in the current year. You're also seeing the assigned fund balances increase. That kind of correlates with the non-major funds down below. A lot of that is with some transfers that went from the general fund to some of those non-major funds for future capital equipment and improvement needs. This next graph here summarizes the general fund financial position for the past 5 years. It shows the fund balance, the cash balance, as well as that line shows the expenditures. The general fund cash and investments at year end was about $3.3 million. That's an increase of about $50,000 from the previous year. And then the total fund balance was at about $3.2 million in the general fund. That saw an increase of about $9,000 from the prior year, and that was after the city had transferred out about $776,000 to other funds in accordance with the city's fund balance policy. So at December 31st, 2020, the unassigned fund balance in that general fund was at 30% of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures, which met the city's fund balance policy. This next slide here shows the budget to actual in the general fund revenues by the various categories noted. General fund revenues were about $7 million for the year, about $1 million over budget. A couple of the areas, our intergovernmental revenues were about $790,000 over budget. A lot of that is with that coronavirus relief funds that the city received in the 2020 year. And then license and permits were about $200,000 over budget, just due to more building activity than anticipated. Kind of looking current year to prior year, your revenues increased about $1.4 million. Once again, you're seeing it in that intergovernmental revenue area with the CRF funds, and then the tax revenues were also up about $700,000. This showing a similar graph here, just of the general fund expenditures by function. The general fund expenditures were about $5.1 million, about $378,000 over budget. Couple of budget variance areas, the general government was about $625,000 over budget. A lot of that was with furniture and equipment and renovations here at City Hall that were all funded by the CRF dollars. And then that was offset, you saw in the Public Works Department, where it's under budget about $200,000 in the Streets and Highway Department area. And overall, if you're comparing current year to prior year, you're seeing your general fund expenditures increased. A lot of that, once again, is due to the renovations that were done here at City Hall. Moving on then here, the next several slides are of the enterprise funds. So those are those business type activity funds the city has, your water, sewer, and stormwater. This shows the change in that financial position. The top part showing it by classification, the bottom part of the table showing it by fund. Overall, the change in the net position was up about just under $4.2 million. You're seeing that spread across all the funds, the water, sewer, and stormwater fund. If you're looking at the top part, you're seeing the majority of that is in that net investment in capital assets. A lot of that is due to just the investment in the utility infrastructure, as well as the city received developer contributions in the current year. Then I'll just walk through each of those business type funds. Here's a graph of the water fund for the past 5 years, just showing the operating results. You're seeing your operating revenues in the water fund are up about $320,000. A lot of that was just due to an increase in the water consumption and connections in the current year. Operating expenses also increased about $160,000. And overall, you're seeing that the fund ended with an operating income of about $119,000, and that includes the depreciation. So if you back out the depreciation expense, that's the red line then, showing that before depreciation expense, the water fund had operating income of about $860,000. Similar graph just of the sewer fund, showing the results for the past 5 years. The operating revenues in this fund saw an increase of about 40,000. This fund did have an increase in consumption and also rate increase in the 2020 year. The operating expenses were up about 240,000 compared to the previous year. You saw some increase in the sewer service charges from Met Council, as well as there were some additional sewer repairs in the current year that increased those expenses. This fund, if you're looking at that green line, the operating income loss, that is before the depreciation when you see the loss of 432,000. When you back off that depreciation expense, you're seeing an operating income of about 49,000. And then the last graph here is of the stormwater fund of the city. The operating revenues in this fund were up about 40,000. This fund did have a rate increase in the current year. The expenses in this fund increased about 60,000. And overall, the fund had an operating loss of about 55,000. Once again, that's before or including the depreciation on your capital assets. So when you back out that depreciation on capital assets, you see an operating income of about 208,000. And then the last table I have here summarizes the city's government-wide financial statements. So in your comprehensive annual financial report, it has all the funds of the city and all the activity. There's a second reporting layer at the front that rolls all those statements and funds together, and it's a full accrual statement that includes all the capital asset activity of the city. It includes all the long-term liabilities such as bonds and pensions. So that's what this is a snapshot of, is of that statement of net position of the government-wide statements. So overall, looking at the city as a whole, you're seeing total net position increase of about 8.5 million. You're seeing the split there between governmental activities and business type activities. Once again, in both of those areas, you're seeing that net investment in capital assets increase, which is the investment in capital assets, as well as there were several developer contributions in the current year. So with that, I would open it up if anyone had any questions or.
Council, any questions?
I do have one. It's not specific, but just in general. You mentioned a couple times where we move money from fund to fund, and you had said that's in line with city policies. Do you also review the policy to make sure the policy is valid, it's attainable, or is that outside of the services that
Yeah,
you
we don't
provide?
review the policies. That's outside. It's a city policy. But then as part of the audit, we look to see, are you in accordance with that city policy?
Okay, but not.
But we don't review the
you don't
actual
review the
city
policy
policy.
itself.
Yep, that's an
Okay.
internal document.
Okay, thank you.
I do, but it's not related to you, so I'm just trying to type it out right now. It's bringing up other questions related to the funds that are higher than normal, so it's leading me down other paths. Sorry.
Dana?
Thank you. Council, I just to follow up to Councilmember Hebert's question, all the policies that we have, we did a comprehensive financial review of our policies in 2019. And every year we look at those policies as part of our annual comprehensive review. And our financial policies are all reflective of best practices according to GFOA, which is what the Government Finance Officers of America, I think, or Association, which is what we all follow for best practices.
Anything else? Wow. Well, thank you. Trish, I read your prelude to all of this. Very nice. Thank you. Very nice work. Anything else? Nope. Okay. I guess we're done. I want to thank you for taking the time and explaining everything to us. Very appreciative.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so next is our 1 strategic plan update, and that's Dana.
Madam Acting Mayor, I'm actually going to start the presentation this evening for you, so thank you all for having me here. This evening, we are bringing you the Q1 strategic plan update for the 2021-2023 strategic plan year. As you remember, this process began in March with our City Council workshop session to discuss the strategic plan, and the fruit of that workshop session was an adopted strategic plan adopted in April, along with 8 strategic priorities. Those 8 priorities are on the screen. I'm just going to read them quick. We have infrastructure and transportation, economic vitality, housing and community character, service excellence, engagement and communications, public safety, recreation and culture, and environmental sustainability. Underneath those 8 priorities, we have 47 outcomes or success statements, or it's really just how do we visualize at the end of the strategic planning session, how do we visualize what Victoria is going to be? And then underneath those 47 outcomes, we have initiatives or projects that they help us reach those outcomes and help move the needle forward on our strategic plan. And with that, I'm going to transfer it back over to Dana to start with the Q1 update on our first priority, infrastructure and transportation.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yes, thank you.
So we've gone through this just recently since you just adopted your strategic plan for 2021, 2, and 3, but now we're here to give you, as Alyssa noted, our first update, and we'll be doing this every quarter. So infrastructure and transportation, our goal was to ensure that everyone in Victoria has access to infrastructure that supports that high quality of life and an effective multimodal transportation system that connects people to basic services and destination points. So we have 5 outcomes that we identified and 21 initiatives or projects associated with that. Today, we're not going to go through that list, but if anybody is curious that might be watching us at home tonight, we do have a summary of that list in the agenda packet. And Alyssa will be giving us a plug for our strategic plan dashboard, which allows everybody to do that deep dive if anyone wants to see any of these details. But tonight, we thought we would just highlight a couple of the things that we were doing in each of these areas. So for infrastructure and transportation, we collected 46 cubic yards of street debris. Now, this is just for this first quarter. We held 2 council workshops just, specifically related to infrastructure and transportation, which included our space needs assessment, which we're continuing to work through, and then that future second fire station. And we'll be coming back to council with more discussions related to both of those areas. And then you did approve 90% plans and specifications and the construction and bidding for the Bavaria Trail. So Anne in Parks and Rec is continuing to work through that. But those are just 3 to highlight in the infrastructure and transportation area this evening. Our next priority was economic vitality. And in economic vitality, we had 4 outcomes and 10 related initiatives or projects. And so just to highlight a couple of those, we've engaged 2 placemaking consultants to receive preliminary costs for strategic placemaking, what that plan would look like for our downtown and then within the city. And for anybody who doesn't know what placemaking is, if you think public art, benches, different street lights, banners, beautification items, those types of things that really make a place unique, and how do we incorporate those in a planful way? Those are things that we're continuing to look at as part of our master downtown plan, and then as we grow, what does that look like specifically in our south growth area as well? And then the city continues to engage with potential partners in developing our downtown west our property. The next priority is housing and community character. There were 6 outcomes and 8 initiatives. And just to remind everybody about that goal, everyone in Victoria has access to safe and affordable housing that supports a good quality of life, and development will protect and enhance our unique character. And to highlight a few of those items, we actually began to look at 4 of our city ordinances. So we've been taking a multi-year approach and doing a deep dive in all of our ordinances. And so far this quarter, we were able to start that process on 4 of those ordinances. So we've researched, gathered, and brought discussions to different residents, different committees, engaged our planning commission, engaged our park and rec committee for those discussions and recommendations, and any amendments or recommended changes would be brought forward to council as we continue to work through those processes. The next priority was public safety, and that goal we landed on. Victoria is a safe community, and public safety is achieved through community partnerships, communication, innovation, and implementation of technology in public safety, emergency management, and code compliance and regulation. And with public safety, we identified 9 outcomes and 18 different initiatives or projects. And to highlight a few of those, we recently spent some time talking about response time and how that response time might help us identify our future location and our future needs for our serving our emergency response for fire as our community grows. And as part of that, when we started this discussion back in 2020 or late 2019, we said, we really wanted to hit that target of 10 minutes or less to have that first command vehicle on site. And so as you can see here, we're achieving that. But as you think about we grow and expand our footprint as traffic grows, that's something that we'll have to keep our eye on. But right now we're within that 8-minute and 36 average response time for our first command vehicle, and just over 9 minutes for that second command vehicle to get on site. And then you can see we're about 14 minutes or 15 minutes for a full engine. So if you were thinking fire response, we do have a paid on call staff, which means wherever they're coming from, work, home, they're dropping what they have to do, driving to the fire station, getting their gear on, and then getting back out to that site. So, and this is pretty good for, our fire chief would say that this is pretty good for our model that we have. The other thing to highlight with regard to public safety is that we were engaged just recently here on our space needs, again, related to fire services, but also in having a conversation with Sheriff Camrood and Commander Wolene at the May 10th Council Workshop, where we talked about strengthening our partnership and communication. So the last thing to point out here is that second future fire station, we did a study that also took into consideration those response times, traffic, all sorts of different data to help us make that data-driven decision on where that location for that second fire station would be best serve our community. And that was done in partnership with the University of Minnesota. And with that, I am going to tag back in Alyssa to cover service excellence and a couple of the other priorities.
Thanks, Dana, and thank you again, Council. So the next priority we're going to discuss is service excellence. The goal for service excellence is that everyone in Victoria has access to quality services that are delivered efficiently with service excellence and in a cost-effective and timely manner. For this one, we have 9 outcomes, and then underneath those 9 outcomes, 25 initiatives. Just some highlights for you on service excellence. In Q1 2021, the city received 2 awards for best practices and outstanding leadership. The first was to our Public Works team, the 2019 Water Fluoridation and Quality Award, and then the second was to City Manager Dana Hardy for the Diligent Modern Governance 100 Community Boards Award. Another initiative that we had under service excellence was to provide staff opportunities to participate in internal committees. Internal committees are a great way to establish feedback to make Victoria a better place to work. And our goal for this was to have 30% of staff participating in internal meetings, and we've surpassed that goal in Q1 with 38%. We'll continue to grow that and keep that number up there. The next one in that list is our grants opportunities and applying for those grants. We earmarked about 30 grants to apply for this whole strategic planning cycle, which is about 10 a year. Since Q1 began, we've already applied for 7 grants, and we've been awarded 4. A few other pieces of information for service excellence. This was in progress in Q1 2021. However, as we are now in Q2 and our auditor MMKR just presented their 2020 audit report this evening, we will mark this initiative as complete for this year. This is a reoccurring initiative, meaning that it will be brought back to you annually as we do annual auditing, and will continue to provide progress in upcoming years. And then the next initiative is the Senior Advisory Committee, which was established this year. The advisory has held 2 meetings so far, as well as participated in a tour of the Bethesda Cornerstone Village project. Next priority is engagement and communication. The goal for engagement of communication is to proactively engage and to keep citizens informed, ensure everyone has opportunities to be involved, and put in place systems as well as services to allow communication not just to flow in one direction, but in both directions. Engagement and communications has 7 outcomes with 26 initiatives. One of the initiatives is to increase our website traffic by 5% annually. As you see on the screen here, our goal for this year is about 112,000 site visitors, and we're about 26% of our goal reached. Similarly, we're trying to increase our social media traffic by 5%. 5% would approximately be 520,000. As of Q1, we are at 120,000, which would put us about 23% of our annual goal. And then a big check mark for the engagement and communications priority is that staff planned, marketed, and held the Citizens Academy for 2021. This was a virtual event this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevertheless, it was a great success, and we received a lot of positive feedback from our attendees. Overall, this is just a fantastic program. Not only does it engage the community in those nitty-gritty details of local government work, but it also, the outcome is that those graduates of the committee go ahead and become champions of our community and speak towards our city services to their friends, families, and neighbors. And also in Q1 2021, the city released a digital monthly newsletter in supplement of the quarterly print newsletter, The Victorious Spirit. And I will give a shout out to our communications and public management manager, Kendra Gall, who redesigned our Victorious print spirits as well as created the digital spirit for us. Both of these provide news outlets in different ways to our community. And for anyone that's watching on television or on the broadcast, you can access the digital newsletter by going to our city website, ci.victoria.mn.us. If you scroll about midway through the website page, you're going to see a series of 6 icons. One of them is City News. It has a little V in the middle of it. You click that and you're going to find the communications webpage. It has all of the communication channels for the city, and one of those will be the digital monthly newsletter form and subscription. Also on that webpage, what you're going to find is the new council brief, also started this year. Yeah, what it does is it takes a 3 to 4 hour council meeting and compiles it into a couple minutes of reading. Those are found and published on the city website, but they can also be found conveniently on our social media channels. The next priority is recreation and culture. That has the goal of everyone in Victoria has access to quality parks, facilities, programs, and services that meet the changing need of the community and create positive, healthy experiences for our residents as well as our visitors. Recreation and culture has 4 outcomes and 10 initiatives. Some highlights for Recreation and Culture is that the Park and Recreation Committee has formally recommended the establishment of the Friends of Wasserman Lake Preserve program. Since then, Park and Recreation staff have been researching and creating possible roles and responsibilities for that program. Another one is the Rec Committee and Recreation staff have started evaluating city parks, looking at accessibility, looking at inclusivity, and then the cost associated with those. Both those projects are in the planning and designing phase and will continue to be worked on throughout this year.
Great.
And then the last on the recreation program is the creation of the volunteer portal on our city website, which function as that one-stop shop for any volunteer activities with the city. We did mark this as completed this year. However, we do know that this will be a living, breathing webpage and will adapt to the needs of the city and the community.
Have you gotten any response from?
We have not yet. And that's another part we'll
Need to
continue
do.
to market. And then the last but not least is environmental sustainability. The goal is to build a sustainable and healthy city by pursuing multiple strategies for sustainable environmental practices, conservation, and the restoration of natural features, and to provide environmental services related to water bodies, wetlands, drinking water, storm, wastewater, and solid waste. There are 3 outcomes and 5 initiatives. And then underneath the initiative of evaluate ordinances that encourage sustainable development, city staff and the Planning Commission have begun to review and make recommended updates to the Victoria Tree Preservation Ordinance. They do anticipate bringing that before council sometime in Q3 of this year. And then last for environmental sustainability is that to move forward the initiative of evaluating EV or electronic vehicle charging stations in public parking lots. Staff has begun to research that possibility and has recently attended an electronic vehicle training session by the Great Plains Institute of Minnesota.
Awesome.
And like Dana mentioned earlier, if you do wish to take a deep dive into the strategic plan, these outcomes, these initiatives, you can do so by visiting the My Sidewalk. It's an interactive strategic planning dashboard with statistics and those graphs that you saw earlier. And you can find that by going to the city's website, again, ci.victoria.mn.us. You hover over that governments tab at the top, and then strategic plan will pop up there. You just click on that button.
Awesome.
And with that, council, we stand for any questions.
Any questions?
I do have one for Dana. When you were talking about the fire, the response times and the engines were 14 and 15 minutes, you said that was okay or whatever in line. Is there a hardcore metric that we're trying
Yeah.
to meet? What is that time?
So hopefully Chief Hager doesn't, hopefully I get this correct, and, but 10 minutes or less, or 10 minutes or less, there's certain standards. NFPA is what drives standards for our fire world. And if I'm not mistaken, and I will bring back information if I'm incorrect on this, but 10 minutes or less is perfectly well within that standard for a non-fire response, but emergency response. So think like your medical type responses for our suburban community. There is not a specific standard that NFPA puts out for fire structure type responses, from, if I'm understanding that correctly or remembering that correctly. So we, as council, had previously given us direction to say we'd like to be in this range. So as long as we're within that, the 15 minutes or less is about what we're shooting for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. When did he do that presentation? Was it this year or last year?
He talked a little bit about it at the Space Needs Study. We just touched on it this year, but I believe it was either late 2019 or early 2020 that
It was
we
2020,
had that
but
conversation.
I didn't know if it was in 2020 or 2021. He did a presentation where he showed fire, how fast it goes now with new homes. So he was wanting to stay in that less than 15-minute range. We could probably tag that for him so he could look at it. Okay, anything else?
Oh, that's all I had.
Oh, this is so easy. Oh, I just had, since we're having such a great response on the Citizens Academy, do we want to maybe do it twice a year? Or would that be too much?
It's a lot of work.
Is it a lot of work?
We would love to do it more than once a year. It is a lot of work, though. It's a lot of commitment, but it's super fun, and I think we as staff get just as excited as our participants in sharing the different things that we do. But there's a lot of planning and a lot of time spent, and we're asking our staff to give up additional evenings
I understand.
to do that. So.
Okay. I just thought, since so many people sign up for that, and it does get what we do out there, and they're educated about it, they just spread it more.
It's certainly something that we can talk about and consider. We had 19 participants this year that signed up, and we had about 9 regularly attend the 5 sessions. And then the first year, which was last year, our inaugural year, we actually had 12. It's kind of hard or we had 15 participants, excuse me. It's hard this year to kind of gauge because it's such a new program, what the interest ongoing will be. I think people are excited about it as more people hear and as more people participate, as Alyssa stated, be champions of the community. We hope it'll take off, and we'll find our rhythm, and we'll be able to do it more easily. It is a lot right now.
Yeah. Hopefully by next year, it'll be kind of normal. Okay, no other questions? All right, I guess we're going to move on to 6.3, and that would be Kara for the South Area Lift Station improvements, award contracts and authorization of construction-based services.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and members of the City Council. It's lovely to be here this evening, maskless and
Yes.
here in live person. So I'm a little rusty apparently still from being here in live person, but I don't have a specific presentation for you tonight. Your staff report contained all the relevant information. We did open bids last week for the South Area Lift Station project that the City Council authorized bidding back on March 22nd of 2021. 4 bids were received from contractors. That's a good amount for a project of this type. It's a large lift station, so the number of contractors that engage in this type of work is, it's not a vast list of bidders that we would expect, but bidders that we would typically see for this type of project did supply a bid. And the low bidder from Geislinger and Sons was about $245,000 below the engineer's estimate that was prepared at the time the plans were completed. So when we talked about this project back on March 22nd, we talked about the fact that the city's capital improvement plan includes $4.1 million for all of the utility infrastructure improvements associated with the South Area extension, specifically for sanitary sewer and water primarily to serve the Geshtok and Vogel properties, which you've recently approved a preliminary plat for, as well as the Welter property that has had a sketch plat review by the City Council. They are in the process of preparing their preliminary plat. We're expecting to see it soon. So it is important that we keep these infrastructure projects moving forward so that by the time there's houses, they have sewer and water available to them. So the lift station bids are favorable. We do recommend approval of the resolution. With that project moving to construction, we will need additional engineering services from the design consultant to oversee that construction. With a lift station project of this nature, it's technical, a little bit more technical with the lift station construction. There's structural components to it. So we don't always have the design consultant do the construction engineering on projects in the city. Often my team does that, but given the technical nature of lift stations, we are using SRF for both construction, staking, administration, and observation. So they'll be on site periodically to make sure the construction is occurring in accordance with the plans. And then aside from the authorization that we're seeking tonight for those two elements, we are continuing to work on the utility extension project, so extending the pipes down to the neighborhood. We've had an opportunity to meet with the primary landowner that's affected by the extension, that would be the Schmiegs, reach some consensus about where they'd like to see those utilities located. So we're just getting those plans updated accordingly, and then we'll be meeting with them. So I'm expecting that you'll be seeing an update on the utility extension project probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I think. But with that, I would answer any questions. Otherwise, we are looking for 2 council actions. First, approval of the resolution accepting bids and awarding a contract. And then the second one is authorization for SRF Consulting Group, not Construction Group, to provide construction engineering services for the South Area Lift Station project.
Okay. Council, any questions?
I do have one. So we awarded the Geisler and Son. Have you worked with them in the past? Do we have any knowledge of?
I myself personally haven't, but my firm has done quite a bit of work with them, and they provided references with their bid package. So we are confident in making that recommendation.
And you don't feel like in this particular bid, as it being the lowest bid, and it was 20 and 40 below what we spec'd out before, we're not getting what we pay for?
Yeah,
In
so.
terms of being the lowest bid, it's,
Nope, they'll enter into a contract with the city, and we'll manage that contract to make sure they stay within the confines of that. Within the 4 bids, the engineer's estimate was in the middle, so we did get a good bid spread and a pretty competitive representation, so we're comfortable with that.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just had a question more about the, this process in general. So when we put stuff out to bid, we're not required to take the lowest bid, are we? Or like if, for instance, if the lowest bid was someone we have worked with before and we maybe weren't as happy with them and the next one was a little bit more expensive, are we required to take the lowest bid, or?
So certainly the city attorney can speak to that in greater detail, but yes, the city is required to take the lowest responsible bid. So we do review the bids to determine that they meet the expectations of the bid package. So, you couldn't take the second low bidder just because you like them better than the first low bidder. But if you had evidence of if they couldn't provide the references that we needed for a project, that might be something that might come into play in our bid review. I don't know if Attorney Vos, you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, Mayor, if I may, yeah, I guess the only other proviso on that, of course, is there is a threshold for the size of the contract where competitive bidding is required, $175,000. So it's a meaningful amount of money before you get into that ballpark. And then as city engineer properly said, it's the lowest responsible bidder. So there is some flexibility in evaluating your bid, as council member asked questions about sort of references. I mean, that's totally appropriate to make sure that you're getting a responsible bidder, and cities do sometimes disqualify bidders for not being adequately responsible in terms of doing the project.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so the first one is the resolution. Would someone like to?
I'll make a motion approving a resolution accepting bids and awarding a contract for South Area Lift Station improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Motion 2, authorization for SRF Construction Group. So
Consulting Group, sorry about that. Typo on my
consulting.
end.
Okay.
Motion for authorization for SRF
Consulting.
Consulting Group to provide construction engineering services.
For South Area Lift Station improvement.
Yep.
I have a motion. All in favor?
Who made the second?
Oh, did you second?
Second.
Okay, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you. Is that all you need?
That's all I need, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now we go to reports and emerging issues. Anything from our attorney?
You know, Mayor and Council, I just crosses my mind, I had mentioned at a prior meeting about at some point we'll need to talk about rescinding the declaration of an emergency and our authority to hold meetings virtually, and we're probably getting closer to that day now. Many of the cities we work with are starting to take that step, and of course, you've been meeting here in person primarily or exclusively for some time, so I just would let you know that that is a trend now, that cities are stepping back from that, and I suspect that staff will want to bring that forward at some point. And beyond that, nothing, Mayor. Thank you. Acting Mayor.
Thank you. Dana?
Nothing from staff.
Okay. Council? No. Let me see if I can find my note. Okay, so one of my clients told me, and I did verify it, that last week Twin Cities Live was here, and they are featuring Victoria on Thursday. So I just wanted to let you know on that. And I don't think we're going to be in council until after the first car show. So I just want to remind everyone that the first car show is coming. So get out there. And one last thing is to just remind everyone that our neighborhoods are 25 miles per hour, and please be cognizant of that because children are out now, so we want to make sure everyone's safe. So with that, anything else? I guess we call it.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, bye.
So
Nice job, you guys. This is good.
Mics are off, correct? Oh, wait.